Now, today we're going to be looking at the stories that are making headlines in the country, after which we're going to be looking at the dailies, and after that we're going to be looking at the sport, morning weather, and your morning quote. Now, to start off the bulletin this morning, pain for parents as Treasury says government cannot afford free education anymore. The government is admitting it can no longer fully fund free education in public primary and secondary schools. Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi says the financial burden is too heavy for the state to sustain, forcing a cut in capitation funding. Appearing before the National Assembly Committee on Education on Thursday, Mbadi said the government cannot sustain the full capitation of 22,000 per secondary school student, managing only 16,600. And this development could push parents to dig deeper into their pockets at a time when the education sector is already in the depth of controversy, from ghost school scandals to unpaid debt, among other challenges. Here is CS Mbadi while speaking to the Committee on Education.
If you look at the total budget for the year and you divide by the number of students we have in this country, instead of 22,000, we are funding up to about 16,900 shillings. If we work with 22,000 per child for senior secondary school and the 15,000 per child for the junior secondary school, and we work with 1,400 plus per child for free primary education, you will get higher figures than what is in the budget.
Many schools are not receiving capitation equivalent to the number of students in their schools because of chemis or nemis. It's a big challenge, so that schools are operating on deficit. Many students who are in those schools are not getting what they are supposed to get.
The ministry is currently, as I've said, developing the chemis system to collect, manage and analyze education-related data from basic education to tertiary education to ensure efficiency.
For example, we talk about Bomet High School, received 50 million. Bomet High School does not exist, but you send this money through Tenwek.
Huge figures have been allocated to certain specific schools in specific regions, including allocating resources to ghost schools that do not exist.
You have the directors, you have the county directors. You want to tell us it's because you are lacking a proper system like that one to know there are ghost schools in this country.
On the issue of money going to schools that do not exist, that is a criminal offense. It is not something that anybody can defend. And if that has happened, then we'll pass the information over to the DCI and that process can be done.
And away from that, now to universities facing cash crunch crisis as mass layoffs, closure of satellite campuses loom. Now, the government can no longer afford a fund to fund university education. Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi says a drastic rescue plan is now on the table. Now, it includes staff cuts, the sale of satellite campuses, and a controversial funding model that could lock out thousands of students from poor backgrounds. Now, the future of higher education in Kenya hangs by a thread, with the government admitting it is broke, leaving public universities gasping for breath under the weight of mounting debt. And Kenya's public universities are on life support. Years of underfunding, unpaid salaries, of ballooning debt, and large student numbers have pushed once prestigious institutions to the brink. Now the government has formally sounded the alarm, announcing an unprecedented overhaul to salvage the system. This resolve has sparked uncertainty among university staff countrywide, whose jobs have been placed on the chopping block. Here are the full details to the story.
The Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the universities, is expected to develop a comprehensive reform strategy that will ensure financial sustainability within the public universities. 1, restructure public universities to reduce unnecessary administrative costs, and 2, measures of staff right sizing and outsourcing of non-core services, and finally, rationalizing satellite campuses and considerations for disposing such assets to offset pending financial obligations, among others. For a long time in this country, we have been living a lie in the sense that we give universities our children to educate for free without funding. We have to be realistic and ask ourselves, do we continue living that lie or we do it differently? This new model that was being resisted so furiously need to be supported to succeed. Call the administration and management of universities. They will tell you that this new model is helping them come out of the financial distress. That is the only way. We cannot, let us not cheat ourselves as a country, that we can finance fully and make university education free.
And away from that now to DPP defends terrorism charges against protesters, cites the law. And Director of Public Prosecution, Renson Igonga, has defended the controversial decision to charge some protesters with terrorism-related offences, saying the move is grounded in existing law and based strictly on evidence. Speaking on Thursday, July 24th, Igonga dismissed allegations that his office is acting on instruction from the executive or any other external forces. His remarks come amid public outcry over the use of terrorism laws to prosecute individuals who took part in recent anti-government protests. Here are the full details to the story.
And it doesn't mean that if demonstrations are against the executive, when the DPP makes a decision, it is from the executive. No. We make our own decision based on the law and evidence available. Terrorism is not only when you bomb using bombs, but if you make acts that are endangering human life, government installations, that is an act of terrorism. And it doesn't mean when a law has not been applied for some time, when you apply it, then it's not the law. That is the law. So if people behave in that manner and there is enough evidence that you have committed that kind of crime, you'd be charged without any favor. As long as there's evidence, that's what we go by.
Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has a very fundamental power and role. That power ultimately can end in a denial of liberty.
Staying to the proximity of the same story, IPOA says 65 have lost their lives in the recent demonstrations, even as police decree the promises that were made to them by the government on terms of a salary increment. Here are both the stories.
Tulienda IPOA wakachukua statement. Kutokea hapo wakaniambia bado watanihitaji, bado wanatafuta evidence, which means police ilikuwa bado hawajawapatia report.
We have not yet gotten the postmortem report from the police because they are telling us that IPOA must approve for them to give us. They are taking us in circles.
Najua mmepata pay slip na pengine hujaona ile 10% yenye iliongezwa juzi. Ni kwa sababu tu cross to the new financial year. By the time ya next month ya August, pay slip yenu itakuwa ina reflect plus the arrears ya hii financial year, tuhakikisha kwamba that reform program inasonga vile Mheshimiwa Rais alisema. Based on ile program yenye Rais aliweka, tuliona kwamba polisi wenye wako kwa law cadre wanaongezewa 10% mwaka jana, 10% this year na another 20% next year, ndio the whole program imalize.
Investigators are calling for urgent criminal probes accusing the facility of commercializing kidney transplants and operating with impunity under failed regulatory oversight. Now, the report has lifted the veil on the country's unregulated body parts industry. That is on page 4 of the Standard this morning. Dr. A. Srimavas Mathi, Chief Consultant Pathologist. There is Dr. Samanda Bag, Chief Kidney Transplant Surgeon. There is Dr. Vijay Kumar, that he is also a part of the ring in the investigations and operational irregularities. Some of the operational irregularities include Medihill conducted 476 kidney transplants between 2018 to March 2025. Eldoret branch handled 81% of the cases. Over 300 Indian expatriates employed. Many lacked valid practice licenses. There is 347 transplants were paid in cash, only 77 through insurance, and Medihill charges up to 4.4 million for foreigners versus 1 million average in other hospitals. Now, if they charge 4.4 million Kenyan shillings and they have they have conducted 476 surgeries since 2018, do the mathematics and let us know in the comment section how much money they have made in recent years. Nyoro, Ruto gambling with the country's future in finance deals. That is on page 6 and 8 of the Standard. Parents to fill school fees paying after Treasury cuts funding. That is on page 2. And Besigye sues Kenya for unlawful arrest. That is on page 3 of the Standard this morning. Besigye is suing Kenya. Agatha and Boniface Mwangi are suing Tanzania. What is really happening in the East African community? Get yourself a copy of the Standard to get to read about that story this morning.